And here to break down the day's political news, our Politics Monday team. That is Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report and host of Politics with Amy Walter on WNYC Radio, and Tamara Keith from NPR. She also co-hosts the NPR Politics podcast. Welcome to you both. Good to see you. Happy Monday. Tam, I want to start with you. Let's pick up where Lisa actually started her report there. Joe Biden's health care plans, swiping, as we heard him there, to some of his fellow presidential contenders there. That is a tonal shift. It's fair to say, him kind of directly hitting at the other contenders. What do you make of that? Why now?
Right, and Bernie Sanders has also been, particularly through statements, hitting at some of his opponents as well. And there's something else going on. Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden no longer have a lock on the top of the Democratic race. It would be difficult now to call them, either of them, front runners, because there are footsteps at their heels. And in some cases, in fact, they're pulling behind Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren. So part of what's happening here is these candidates need to fight. They are now fighting for their place. Joe Biden can't sit back and say, "Well, I'm in the lead. I can't touch these other candidates. I can't get my hands dirty." No, he has to get his hands dirty now.
Is that what's happening here?
Yeah,
he's got to get in it.
He's got to get in it, and we saw that from the debates, right? He was literally just a punching bag up there, while folks, whether it was Kamala Harris or Eric Swalwell or others, were coming after him. He looked like he was on the defensive the entire time. Now he's saying, "I'm going to go on the offensive," and really direct this debate on an issue where he thinks he can really be strongest.
And that was on healthcare. We saw him right there, but it's not just on those issues. I want to point you towards a recent poll. NBC Wall Street Journal asked Democratic primary voters what kind of candidate they're looking for. Is it for someone who's pushing large-scale change, right? Tends to be more expensive, harder to pass, or incremental change. It's not an even split. There's a bit more looking for that large-scale change. What does that say about what the candidates are pushing?
That's right. And the other issue there is who as candidates are in each one of those categories, right? There are a lot more candidates fighting for that 54% than fighting for the 41%, because you have Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, you have Senator Warren, you have Senator Sanders, to a certain degree, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, also in that 54%. Biden's kind of by himself in that 41%. There are others who are trying to take a more moderate, again, let's do more incremental change, not the big, bold, more expensive, progressive change. Amy Klobuchar, Senator Michael Bennet, Governor John Hickenlooper. None of those folks are polling anywhere near the top. They're in the single digits. So the challenge, I think, isn't just where the voters are, but also who are the candidates who are in those lanes and who fights to be at the top, and how many voters are left once you split those folks all up.
Speaking of some of the divisions within the Democratic Party, Tam, I want to ask you, a few days ago, there was a big story. We were all talking about the division between Speaker Pelosi and some of those younger freshman members of Congress, those 4 women of color who like to call themselves the Squad. The president weighed in. Everything kind of shifted. What a difference a couple of days make. Where are we now?
Well, so President Trump has an incredible ability to unite Democrats against him. That said, in the press conference that the Squad held, there were some veiled comments directed towards Nancy Pelosi. I think it was Ayanna Pressley who said something to the effect of, "Our squad is bigger than 4 people." So there were some little subtle jabs there too. But President Trump used racist language in a tweet, and then has continued to follow up. He's sort of modifying the message a little bit. But in terms of his campaign, if he could run against the Squad instead of all those other people who are running for president, he would be glad to. And in some ways, on many days, it seems like he is running against those House members rather than any of the candidates that are actually running for president.
Yeah, that's what that 54-41 number that you put up, that's not just about the presidential campaign. That's also happening at the congressional level, right? Do we do big, bold things? This is what the Squad would argue, even though they may not ever get passed. But we need to set a marker, and we need to really push for big substantive change, versus Pelosi and folks in leadership saying we need to pass what we can actually get done and make real movement on issues. But I think even more fundamental than that is part of the reason that Trump loves playing on this issue of immigration and race and cultural issues is he pushes extreme this way, and many of the Democrats, we saw this in the debate, came out on the other extreme, whether it was on issues of healthcare for people who are in the country illegally. Almost all of the candidates said they would allow government health insurance to cover those folks, and then decriminalizing illegal border crossings. This is where the president likes to play, which is to say, you might not love my positions on these issues, but look at what Democrats are doing. They're going to have open borders. Everybody's going to get free stuff, to make it a choice about the other side, rather than making it a referendum on what his administration is actually doing.
That's the terrain the president wants to be fighting on. Towards that point, I want to get your take on this. Just a couple of minutes left. Take a look at this Gallup poll from last month. They were asking people about the top issues, what they consider to be the top problem for the country. Immigration is now ranking higher than it ever has before. It's up, I think, 1 percentage point from the highest point Gallup has ever measured it, measuring back to 1993. This is a bipartisan issue now, Tam. What do those numbers say to you?
Right. What those numbers say is that it is a bipartisan issue. Now, those numbers cover up that Republicans and Democrats have very different ideas when they say that immigration is an issue. So Democrats will say it's family separation, it's terrible conditions in some of these detention facilities for migrants. And Republicans will say it's people pouring across the border, it's caravans, it's MS-13. Very different ideas of what the word immigration or the issue immigration is, but it is a top concern for both parties.
And this is also why you see Joe Biden talking about healthcare. In fact, a lot of Democrats that I talk to say, I wish the campaigns, the candidates and Congress would talk, Democrats in Congress would talk a lot more about healthcare. That's also a top issue, and it's where Democrats have a tremendous advantage, like they did in 2018, but instead they're getting pulled over to talk about the issues Donald Trump wants them to talk about on his terrain and in his turf. Make him, is what Democrats tell me, play on the terrain that is more suitable to Democrats.
You think we'll see Democrats try to stick more to the issues where they can win?
Yeah, but that's really tough to do. The president is going to bring the attention and the media and how Democrats respond to him, and then go forward for the next step is going to be critical.
Tracking it all there. Amy Walter, Tamara Keith, Politics Monday. Good to see you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.